Not a lot to say. We didn't perform well enough tonight. Not coaching, not playing. You can chalk it up to the turnover game, but we weren't good enough in a lot of other areas in communication in terms of detail. Just not a good night for us. And in the single elimination tournament, we don't have a good night. You go home. And we understand that. Tip our caps to those guys and congratulate them. They did. We didn't. Just hurt for the guys in the locker room, man, that not only put forth great effort tonight, but put forth great effort all year. Not only in terms of the ball, but the things that came with the ball, the things that we asked them to do, the things that the present circumstance asked them to do in terms of COVID protocol and all of that. Just can't say enough about the efforts of the guys. But there's pain associated with where we are right now. And, ain't no running away from that. That's football and that's life. One injury in the game, maybe to speak of, Alex Highsmith had a high ankle. Other bumps and bruises associated with play.
Dejan Kovacevic.
Mike, you had a 4th and short midway through the fourth quarter. Your team had some momentum. What went into your decision to punt there?
We had some stops. I wanted to pin them down and maybe provide the short field for our offense. We had maybe 2 or 3 consecutive stops. And so I just wanted to keep the momentum going in terms of field positioning, but we weren't good enough in terms of doing that.
Mike Pursuta.
Mike, when you evaluate players, coaches, seasons, everything you're going to have to get into now, is it always a body of work thing, or does sometimes one game become definitive? And if so, might this game be it?
It's always a cumulative body of work. One performance can put an exclamation point on decision-making and things, but we always assess the cumulative.
Brooke Pryor.
Yeah, Mike, when you mention assessing the cumulative, and Ben Roethlisberger and Marquise Pouncey were the last 2 that came off the field sitting together, when do you start having the conversation with Ben about his future and where he goes from here?
I hadn't thought about that, to be honest with you. We've been in this play mode and this compete mode. And so, those discussions and decisions regarding personnel and wrapping a ball around the season and getting an eye toward what the future looks like, those things will begin happening in the upcoming days and weeks.
Jim Colony.
Yeah, Mike, this is 3 straight seasons now, plus the Jacksonville playoff game where things have not gone well down the stretch. How should you be held accountable for that?
It is what it is, man. Our record is our record. Our performances are our performances. And so don't run away from that.
Jerry Dulac.
Hey, Mike, when you get behind right away on the first snap and it just unravels like it did in the first quarter, down 28, I mean, what did you say to the guys, and how do you try to keep them focused to try to come back?
I wasn't worried about them being focused and trying to come back, but in terms of our urgency and things, but it does change the climate of the game in terms of opportunities and opportunities for splash and the nature in which they play and the nature in which we have to play. You lose balance. You miss opportunities for splash on the other side because they hide the ball, et cetera. It doesn't bode well when you spot people points, and particularly the way we did it tonight. It made the journey a difficult one.
Will Graves.
Mike, the turnovers are one thing, but the defense, I mean, they let them go down the field and score after the turnovers. I don't think they got a sack tonight. I don't think they got a turnover, which was not indicative of their performance during the season. What was Cleveland doing so effectively that you guys were not doing?
That's what I mean. When you spot them points, man, you miss opportunities for splash. It changes the climate of the game, if you will. They have to take less risk. It's all rolled into one. It's multi-layered.
Joe Rudder.
Yeah, Mike, what did you tell your team after this game?
That I was appreciative of their efforts, not only tonight, but throughout the whole journey. It wasn't a lot to say. Our performance speaks for itself, as it has and as it always does. And really, that was it.
Bo Marciani.
Coach, that 2-week period from Thanksgiving where you played the Ravens, Washington, and the Bills, it seemed like you guys really never recovered from that 3-game, 2-week period. Will you think you'll reflect back saying that might have been a point where things kind of changed for you guys?
Sure. In terms of winning football games, no question.
Alan Saunders.
Mike, you started the season 11-0. You end up losing 5 of the last 6. What do you feel like is the biggest difference between the team that finished the season compared to the team that started it?
We didn't do enough. We didn't position them in enough good circumstances. We didn't make enough plays, particularly in the critical moments. We were a group that died on the vine.
Brian Batko.
Mike, you had several calls to make on 2-point or extra point. What all went into those decisions down the stretch? I mean, was it analytics or feel for the game? What all was factoring into those?
Whenever we were, more than 17 down, we were trying to cut it to 3 scores, two touchdowns and a field goal. And so that was the mindset. A couple of times we were down by 19, trying to get to 17, just trying to reduce the number of possessions.
Mark Caboli.
Mike, what went into the decision of Filer over Dotson and Spillane over Williams?
We were comfortable with the work that they provided us during the week, not only in terms of from a health standpoint, but just in terms of performance. We made a lot of plays with those guys. We were excited about getting them back in the lineup.
Time for a few more. Chris Adamski.
Mike, Ben sat on the bench alone out in the field for a long period of time after the game. Pouncey sat with them for a little bit. I don't know if you got a chance to see them at all after the game. What was their mindset during the game? I know, of course, the game just ended, and there's you just played a game.
Their mindset was no different than everyone else's. We were singularly focused on performing well and winning. We didn't do it, and there's disappointment associated with that. So I'm sure what you mentioned or what you witnessed was something relative to that.
Jerry Dulac.
Hey, Mike, I know you like to call a lot of the defensive signals. Did you start doing it when you got behind, or did you do it the whole game? It looked like you were doing it quite a bit.
We functioned the way we normally function tonight.
Mike Pursuta.
Mike Roethlisberger threw for 501 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also had 4 picks. Not related to any kind of decision he may or may not have to make, but do you think he can still play at a high level?
I do.
Brooke Pryor.
Mike, you guys did have another slow start tonight, as has been something that's plagued you guys throughout the season. Will you look back and see if there was a commonality in all of those things, or even just gut? Is there something that was consistently going wrong with those slow starts?
No question. They'll be investigated.
Final one, Jim Colony, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, did you consider kicking onside earlier in the game?
I'm sure I did, but I didn't until obviously I did later in the game.
All right, thanks, Coach.